Hey everyone, it's Mom of Two, Wife of One. It's Thursday, and that means it's time for a recap of Married at First Sight Season 12. We are on episode 9. If this is the first video that you've watched of mine, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Please make sure you like and you share and you subscribe and you comment. I love to talk to people, especially about Married at First Sight, but I am a communicator. I like talking. I like engaging. So definitely, hit me up and just say, hey, I found you and I like you. And I'll be like, okay, thank you. Like you too. Okay, now that we've done all the pleasantries, let's get to the episode. So for those of you who, again, if this is your first time watching my channel, if you've never watched Married at First Sight, it comes on Lifetime on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. It is a reality show where single people basically reach out to the show, reach out to these experts to say, I'm ready to get married. The experts find them a match. They contact them and say, hey, we found a spouse for you. You're going to get married in 2 weeks. And all they're told about that person is their ring size. They meet them at the altar. And then cameras follow them through the marriage, through the wedding night, through the honeymoon, through them living together, merging their lives and their families and their friends. And then after 8 weeks, they have to decide if they want to get divorced or if they want to stay together. So last night's episode was called 3 Little Words, and it was all about discovering how you know you're in love with someone. What is your history with being in love? What can I do now as your spouse to ensure that you love me? And what can you do as my spouse to ensure that I love you? So we're going to start with Ryan and Clara. I feel like in the beginning, they were the couple that people were like, oh, I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to make it. This episode, I feel like it highlighted all of the things that make them different, which is not a bad thing. But with any couple, whether you're on the show or you're a real life couple, even if you have a lot of differences, the only way that you're really going to grow together as a couple is if you're both willing to give a little bit. And it hasn't been proven yet that they're willing to do that. But I think that, especially the way the episode was edited, it really made it seem like, oh, these people have nothing in common. And they may have more in common than we see. But Clara is definitely the fun one. She's very vocal about the things that she likes and doesn't like. And she moves at a quicker pace when it comes to relationships. Ryan is a lot more quiet and intentional with his words, and he just moves a little slower. So when they had the conversation about love, she said, she basically was like, I just need someone who's going to be there for me, who is going to want to do things for me to make me feel good, whether it's buying me flowers when I've had a bad day, or rubbing my feet when I'm tired, or just going out of your way to make sure that I'm comfortable and that you're adhering to my needs without me asking you to. And for Ryan, he's been in several relationships, but he's never said I love you to a romantic person. So he was like, I just need patience from the person I love, because it takes a long time for my walls to come down. Like, I really need to fully trust the person in order to love them. Clara, we have to see if she's going to be patient enough to actually, not be patient enough, if she's willing to be patient enough to wait for Ryan. I don't know if she will be or not. Next episode, next week, the show's some previews. And Dr. Viviana, who's one of the experts, she is like the sexologist. So whenever she comes on the scene, she's there to talk to the couples about intimacy and what kind of things can you do to increase intimacy. She's not telling them to have sex with each other, but she's basically like, if you choose to have sex with each other, let's make sure that it is obviously mutual on both ends, that you want to do this. And let's make sure you guys are going out of your way to please each other. If you are not having sex with each other, think of the other forms of intimacy. Make sure you continue to grow those things, whether it's having those good conversations, adhering to each other's love language, touching, talking, communicating, whatever it is. So either way, next week they're going to as viewers, get the nitty gritty on their intimate life, because for the most part, they're pretty close-lipped about it. But we'll see. But last night's episode didn't really give me high hopes for them as a couple. But again, we'll see if they're both willing to actually work on it and willing to give and bend a little bit. Virginia and Eric are next. Virginia really impressed me this episode. She's not that young, she's 26, kind of a party girl. And so she's been edited as the person who just drinks all the time and likes to have fun and is just kind of whatever. But she asked really thought-provoking questions of Eric when it came to love, and even talking to the girls later on. And I was really impressed by the things that she was saying. When she and Eric had the conversation about love, he basically said that the one great love of his life was his ex-wife. He's the only one in the show's history that's ever been divorced and has been on the show. And he was married for 6 years, but he's been divorced for 3. And he told her that after that relationship ended, all the women he dated after that, he found himself not comparing the women specifically to that ex-wife, but comparing the feeling he felt with them to the feelings he had with his ex-wife. So in his mind, he knows what love feels like, and he's been looking to recapture that ever since. And for Virginia, she's a person who's always wanted to be in a serious relationship, has always wanted love. She didn't have good examples of that growing up because her parents were divorced, and I got the impression it was pretty nasty. And so she's wanted to, be with somebody who's just for her and she's just for that person. But whenever it got serious with certain people, she would kind of back away and get a little scared. But she wants to make it work with Eric, and she did tell him, she's very vulnerable. She's like, I want to be that person for you, but I do have some anxiety about the pressure of trying to be not better than the ex-wife, but making sure that your feelings for me are greater than you had with your ex-wife. And there's nothing I can do to really make that happen, but I just feel anxiety that you may not get there. But they ended their episode or their segment by saying I love you to each other. It was actually really sweet. And from the beginning, I've been saying that they're not going to stay together. So last night kind of turned my no into a maybe. I'm still on the fence because, we don't know what's going to happen in the next few weeks. But it's like, okay, they seem to be making really good progress. And I was actually really proud of her. And I just liked their moment together. I thought it was really, really sweet. Brianna and Vincent. Vincent is a good guy. Brianna seems like a really good girl. They're both trying. They both feel like each other. They both also said I love you to each other. It was extremely sweet and nice. And then Vincent went and ruined it at the end of the episode. She surprised them by, well, first of all, he did something really sweet for her. On their wedding day, he said, I like riding bikes. And she's like, oh, I want a bike. I don't have a bike yet, but I really want a bike. He surprised her with a bike. And he was like, yeah, and I'm going to get a little basket to put in the front for Cookie, who is her little dog, like a little Yorkie. And if you know most girls who have dogs, if you do something for her, she was already like, oh my gosh, you got me a bike. And you remembered I want a bike. And then he mentioned a basket. She's like, oh my gosh, you got something for my dog too? Oh, heart melts. This is wonderful. He's great. And he is a good guy. But his problem is he doesn't like looking foolish. And it seems like he's easily embarrassed, and once he gets embarrassed, he just gets an attitude and he completely shuts down. And she picks up on it. As a viewer, we can clearly see that he's like face blank, I'm not doing well, and it's just attitude. She surprised him by taking him to a salsa class because he mentioned that he wants to learn how to dance, or he likes to go dancing or whatever. But she surprised him. She's never taken a salsa class either, so they're both starting from scratch. But because she likes to dance a lot, she picked up on a lot quicker than he did. So he was stumbling around, not really doing well. And most people are like, oh, it's a class, especially the first class. You're not going to excel right away. It's okay to make a mistake here or there. And he just was cursing. He just again looked really upset, and I don't know if he doesn't like looking like a fool. I don't know, it could be various things. It could be that he specifically doesn't like looking like a fool in front of her, or he doesn't like specifically looking like a fool in front of cameras. It could be a couple different levels to this thing. But it seems like next week Dr. Viviana is going to talk to them about that. I still like them as a couple. I still think they're really cute. But that's something that she so far has been handling his, I won't call them tantrums, but him being that hard on himself and shutting down and having an attitude. She seems to handle it well so far. She just kind of talks to him and is like, look, tell me what you need. We're going to figure this out. But if that's happening all the time, because keep in mind, it's episode 9 for viewers. So that means we've had 9 weeks of dealing with the couples. But in actuality, every time the show comes on, it tells you this is day whatever of marriage. They've only been married for 3 weeks. And this is maybe the 3rd or 4th time that he's had this kind of attitude because something didn't go his way. So, that's the 3rd or 4th time of having that energy in your space in 3 weeks. And again, she's handling it well now, but if that continues on throughout the process, that may be an issue if he doesn't get that under control. So we'll see what happens with them. Oh gosh, Haley and Jacob, they are definitely not as boring as I thought. It's a couple things. So Jacob he's 48 and Haley is, no, I'm sorry, he's 38. Haley is 28. So they have the biggest age gap. And I feel like Jacob he's very comfortable being vulnerable and saying what's on his mind, saying what's on his heart, and asking the tough questions. And he asked her point blank, are you physically attracted to me? And I feel like that is such a hard question to ask somebody. And I don't know the conversation they had before that, but I got the impression that he kind of does that often, where he'll kind of come out of nowhere and ask these really deep questions and expect an answer right away. And if you're put on the spot like that, that's a very invasive question to ask somebody, because of course you don't want to hurt the person's feelings, but you also have to look at how people look at attraction. And for her, it's like, to be attracted to you, I have to get to know you better. And I don't feel like we've gotten to that point, because it seems like they do more arguing than actually hanging out and talking with each other. So after she basically told him, like, I don't know yet, he was like, okay, well, there's really nothing else to discuss, because if you're not attracted to me, we don't have anything to build on, and it just looks like we're not going to make it. He's very matter of fact, almost no emotion when he says things, but you can also tell him the things in the conversation that they have had where it turns into an argument. Some of the things that he says, you can tell that he was really burned by one or two past relationships, because he makes assumptions about what he thinks she's going to say and what she thinks she's going to do. Because he'll say stuff like, well, I knew if I told you this, that you would do this, and then it would lead to this, and then you would say this. And she's like, I love how you crafted this whole dialogue in your head that we haven't even had. And it's based obviously off of his past. So whatever happened to him, he has not come to grips with that. And he's bringing all of that baggage into their current relationship. And she said something that I thought made a lot of sense. She was like, look, I think that we put too much pressure on ourselves. I know we have a short term, it's only 8 weeks or whatever, but at this point, it's only been 3 weeks, and we do more argument than anything else. I want us to have fun with each other. Why can't we just keep things light and relax and get to know each other naturally, as opposed to immediately talking about these hard-hitting questions like, oh, are you in this? Do you want to stay with me? It's like, yo, I'm still getting to know you. And he agreed, and he was like, well, maybe by relaxing a little bit and just doing something fun, she'll bring her walls down a little bit. And they had a very frank conversation about that, too, and they talked about the love questions. She was like, I do have my guard up. I was in a relationship off and on for 5 years, and it was, difficult for me. And she was single for a really long time. She was single for 7 years because that one relationship really did a number on her. And he basically told her, like, I feel like your walls are still kind of up. He's like, and that's valid. Like, I understand that. And it's funny that he said that to her, but he couldn't realize that he has his own walls up and he has his own issues that he's dealing with from the past. But it seemed, at least toward the end of the episode, that they were talking more. It was light. They went out to dinner. And at dinner, they were just having a casual conversation. But she started talking about some vulnerabilities that she had when she was younger, about not feeling like she was good enough, and issues she had when she was working and when she got out of college. And she may not have been free to open up like that if all their conversations continued to be really deep and really pointed. So I think they're going to be okay as long as they focus on just each other. Let's get to know each other. Let's not focus on the timeline. Let's not focus on where we're going to be 6 months from now. Let's just focus on the here and now and having fun with each other and just learning more about each other, which I didn't think was a bad thing, and I kind of appreciated that. One of the light things that they did was host a pool party at his house. And if you've seen the show, you know that in the first 2 episodes, he bragged about this house that he built and his backyard oasis, which had a pool, but also had like a beach type feel to it. So they had a pool party and invited all the couples, and all the couples came, including Paige. Paige is the part of the last couple, Paige and Chris. She came by herself, thankfully. And she basically was updating the other girls on the conversation she had with Chris and with Chris's baby's mama, ex-fiance, last week. And I did the recap of that episode. So if you haven't seen the episode, please, go visit my video for episode 8. But she basically told them, we had the conversation, and I told both of them this relationship no longer serves me and blah, blah, blah. But he's contacted me because he wants me to just sit down with him for whatever reason, just the 2 of us. And Virginia, again, impressed me because she said to Paige a question I'm sure was on everybody's mind. She was like, so take the baby out of the equation. She's like, just Chris by himself as a man. How do you feel about him as a man, as a husband, just by himself? And Paige, I was going to say love her. Don't really love her in this moment. But she's basically like, well, you know what? I'm just going to wake up that day, and whatever God leads me to do, that's what I'm going to, go with. And it's like, you're not listening to God. And I'm not in your head, not in your relationship with God, but I fully believe that God isn't telling you to put yourself out there like that with this particular person. Because before that, Paige, so I take notes every episode. And as soon as they showed Paige, they showed her coming to a restaurant. I'm like, cool, she's finally meeting with her friends. Because this whole time, we have not seen a friend, her mama, her daddy, her stepdaddy, a cousin, nobody since the wedding. Which, again, for us, it's been weeks ago. since they had the wedding. So I haven't seen any of them since then, and it's been pissing me off because every time we see Paige, she's alone with Chris. She's alone with an expert. She's with Chris and the baby mama. She's with the other brides. She's with people who have only known her for a very short amount of time, who do not necessarily have her best interest at heart. And if I'm being put in a situation where I'm being made a fool of, or someone is telling me they're not attracted to me, or telling me they want to divorce me, or whatever the issue is, I need to make sure I have people around me who love me and who are protective of me. Because best believe, as soon as I got that phone call, not even as soon as I got that phone call from him, as soon as we're on the plane coming back from the honeymoon to Atlanta, and you tell me I need some time to myself, I'm going to Chicago for a few days, I'm not going to that apartment we're supposed to be sharing then. Why would I go there by myself? I still have my apartment. My lease is still good. I'm going back to my apartment, calling my homegirls, my cousin, whoever, say, hey, I need you to stay with me just for a little bit. And if I got stuff coming up with Chris or with whoever, I'm not coming by myself. Every time they show her, she doesn't have anyone around her who is protective of her. And yes, she's a grown woman. She doesn't need protection. But sometimes you just need that emotional connection to somebody who you know has your back. She's been going to face all of these, not all of these terrible people, but going to face these terrible situations by herself, and it made me upset. So when they first showed her, and they showed her going to a restaurant to meet someone, I was like, okay, great, it's her friend. But no, it's Chris's friend who's a pastor. And I wrote in all caps, why? Where the freak are her friends and family? Why are you meeting with Chris's friend? What does he have to do with you? I was so confused by this. Apparently, he reached out to Paige to see how she was doing, and he also quoted some scripture that basically alluded to the fact that, Chris is a fool and he's not stable. And he also let it slip that when he met Chris years ago, Chris was engaged. So we know now that Chris has been engaged at least twice. It's like, okay, so you have a history of getting engaged to people. But in his mind, because Chris had been engaged twice, he thought this show was perfect for him because it was out of his control. Let the experts handle it. So the experts are going to pair you with the person that you need to be with, because obviously doing stuff on your own is not working for you. So they were like, we thought he was ready. And so for him to do this to you, that wasn't fair. And, Paige told him, like, yeah, because when we were coming back from the honeymoon, he went to Chicago and he didn't even give us a chance. And he's like, oh, Chris didn't tell me that. And the pastor was kind of looking upset, like, and obviously last week, Chris sat down with his pastor friend, who also was the pastor that married the two of them, and sat down one of his homeboys to tell them the situation and how he was divorcing Paige. He didn't tell them everything because, of course, he's not going to paint himself in a bad light. He basically was just like, I'm not attracted to her. My ex is pregnant, so I'm getting a divorce. Left out a bunch of pertinent information that the pastor, I guess, now is finding out. But still, why? Why did you hit up Paige? Why do you think you had the right to hit her up to talk to her? You are not her pastor. You are not her friend. Why, oh why, are they not showing her talking to her friends? You can't tell me this chick ain't picked up the phone and started a group text with her homegirls. She had at least 4 or 5 girls in her bridal party. You can't tell me they don't have a group text chain going, explaining how trash Chris is and how trash the situation is. You can't tell me that. So why have we not seen any of these people? I don't understand. And then she met up with Chris. Don't know why she did that. And when they sat down, her attitude was a lot different from the last times that she's met with him. She didn't look defeated. She looked really confident, just sitting there and was like, so, what's up? Why are we here? What's going on? She's a lot more to the point, because he's just acting like nothing's wrong. Like, oh, hey, so what's up? Okay, so how you feeling? Oh, okay, what you drinking? And she's like, why are we here? Like, let's cut all that out. What are we doing here? And he basically was like, yeah, I heard that you met with Pat, because his friend's name is Pastor Dwight. He's like, I heard you met with Pastor Dwight. Yeah, he told me. And she's like, okay. Yeah, he reached out to me. And so Chris does his little talking head, and he was like, Pastor Dwight told me he talked to her. I have a problem with that. You're supposed to be my friend or my pastor or whatever. You're not, he's like, I'm not upset with Paige. And granted, you ain't got no reason to be upset with her. This chick ain't do nothing wrong. But I understood him getting upset with Pastor Dwight, because apparently the pastor reached out to Paige without even telling Chris about it. He told Chris about it after the fact. And I feel like if that's really your boy, whether you believe in what he did or not, you think what he did was wrong, that's fine. If you feel like you can actually do some good in the situation, then you call Chris and be like, hey, I wanted to run an idea past you. I want to hit up Paige just to kind of check in with her, see how she's doing. I know you said you want a divorce. I still don't think that's necessarily the right decision, but I want to kind of see where her head is at, and then let Chris tell you yes or no, that's a good idea, and leave it at that. And if Chris says no, you don't do nothing about it. If he says yeah, then you hit Paige up and let her make a decision if she wants to see you or not. But the fact that you arranged that meeting and didn't talk to Chris about it first, that is kind of really shady and overstepping your bounds. You have nothing to do with that situation. Yes, you are Chris's pastor, but you're not Paige's pastor. Let her pastor hit her up. That's her pastor's job, not yours. So I did think that was weird, and I understood Chris being upset about it, but then he said something really juvenile. He was like, I just thought that was just not right, so I'm not talking to Pastor Dwight ever again. It's like, what adult says ever again? Like, stop being 13, whatever. But they're having the conversation, and he's still not really telling me anything. He was like, I don't have anything new to report from last time I saw you. And she was like, let me break this down for you. I don't like wasting my time, and you're pissing me off. And then she got up and walked away. Now, if she had stayed, walked away, I'm like, yes, Paige, finally, grow a pair. This is great. But then the producer stopped her, and she was like, I'm just tired of just sitting there, and he's not saying anything. And she was like, I get that. If nothing else, go back and tell him, look, after today, don't call me anymore. Which is what she should have done. After he said I want a divorce, she should have blocked his number right then and there. That's why I keep telling people, because that would have been my first move. Okay, you want to be married anymore? Cool. Let me go find my divorce lawyer. I'm going to block your number. We have nothing to say to each other. Next time we talk, it can be, in the courtroom or whatever. But cool. Thank you for the good memories. Thank you for the honeymoon. If the sex was good, thank you for that. And now we're going to roll out, and that's that. So she sits back down with him, and he basically goes on this whole thing about how he's scared. He's scared he's making the wrong decision with Paige. He's scared he's making the wrong decision by going back to his ex. He's scared of some other person raising his child. He's scared that the ex is going to keep him away from his child. He's scared. And I'm not going to knock the fact that having a child, period, is a scary concept for anybody. I won't take that particular thing away from him, but I do feel like it's a cop-out. And I feel like you didn't get into this for the right reasons. You have been playing with Paige the whole time. And because of that history of playing with her the whole time, it's hard for anybody to feel any amount of sympathy for you. So at the end of their meeting, she was like, we need a reset button. He was like, I agree. We need to start over. And she reaches out her hand and says, hi, I'm Paige. She says, hi, I'm Chris. And they smile at each other. And that's how it ends for them. She's just frustrating. Like, as soon as I see her get some gumption, I'm like, yes, Paige, finally. Then she goes back to disappointing me. And granted, I'm not in her shoes. Whatever feelings she thinks she has for Chris, I don't have those feelings. So I don't know what they are. I don't know how strong they are. But my recap of all of the couples, Eric and Virginia are looking a lot more promising than I thought they were before. So I'm changing my... First of all, I said no, that they were not going to stay together. I'm changing my no to a maybe. Clara and Ryan, I believe I gave them a yes at the beginning. I think I want to give them a maybe now. It depends on how patient Clara is willing to be, and if Ryan is willing to budge and kind of give Clara at least some kind of indication that he's ready to be intimate, or he's on the road to being more intimate. Haley and Jacob, I think, can make it if they continue on this path of keeping the lines of communication open but not taking themselves too seriously, so maybe they'll be okay. Brianna and Vincent, I still like them a lot together, but looks like Vincent has a lot that he needs to work on. So if he's willing to do that, then I think they'll be good. Paige and Chris, I don't want them to be together. My hope is that he'll go on his way, she'll go on her way, and eventually she'll find somebody who loves her for her. But I know, I said from the beginning that they are not going to stay together. I still firmly believe that. But we'll see what happens. Episode 10 is next week, and I don't remember how many episodes we have each season, but we'll see. So thank you guys for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go back and look at the recaps of the other episodes if you're not caught up on the show. And I will see you guys next week. Peace.